14 practices spanning 35 days. Notre Dame's spring of 2025 is in the books. I'm Tim Prister with Tim O'Malley and Drew Mentock from Irish Illustrated, and this is Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis. We just spent some time with Marcus Freeman. Spring has wrapped up. As you can imagine, a lot of positive things to say about this team. Individually, collectively, this is a really good football team. Before we jump into the specifics of what Marcus Freeman said, although I should say, starting with some of the specifics, he said there were three main goals, and that was to chase their full potential. He always has catchphrases for everything.
I thought that during the press conference.
That was, yeah. The opposition is yourself. That was the phrase he used. And the second thing is elevate the trust within the team. He says great teams have that, and we saw that this past season with Notre Dame. And then work every day with the understanding that there's going to be a delayed gratification, and that gratification hopefully comes this fall.
I thought the elevate the trust part was telling because, last year, as we said about the defense, it was they hit the ground running at the 500 level. Some of those guys, obviously, are bringing in Chris Ash, makes it a little bit different. He's going to add some tweaks to the scheme. And I think the trust Mike Denbrock now can have in a new era of Notre Dame quarterbacking. When Mike Denbrock comes to us in the spring and said, we didn't trust our passing game last year ever, that's not a good sign.
He volunteered
that. It's not like we asked for it. So I think that was probably telling for Marcus Freeman to say that, and I'm sure that's what part of the spring was about, was trying to foster also camaraderie and everything on the defensive staff. And he actually ended the press conference talking about how that was kind of what impressed him about Chris Ash is he's a good leader, but you have to make your assistants shine because they have a lot of brilliant minds on defense.
Right, Drew?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, and with that building trust comment, is how much they needed to lean on those kind of second, third team guys by the end of last season too. So I think we saw throughout the spring, they got a lot of opportunities for young guys this spring, and they had a lot of chance to earn it on the field, but also be really intentional about how they build that trust, how they're communicating with their teammates and things like that. And I think him echoing that throughout the spring will really carry forward into the summer.
Obviously, the quarterback situation was a hot topic. Steve Angeli has entered the portal. Marcus Freeman took several questions about the quarterback position, including for me. But, he said he wants one starter. Could there be a package in the red zone that we speculate about? There could be. Could Tyler Buckner move back to quarterback as another body in the room? There could be. But now he feels like with two quarterbacks, you can really home in on exactly what you want to do with those two quarterbacks. And these are the quarterbacks of the present and future. And I think everybody around here feels good about the competition that will that has begun as Notre Dame heads into the summer.
The most telling part was when he said some of these guys, meaning any of the three quarterbacks, would only get 12 team reps in some practices because you're trying to work it through three guys. That is untenable in August. You absolutely cannot have that in preparing for Miami. And if you're only getting 24, now you know why you need to whittle down to one quarterback by about August 15th as well, especially when the guy hasn't played before. Like Kenny Minchie has played 3 games in mop-up duty. CJ Carr got in against Purdue, right? There's an adjustment there. Riley Leonard hit the ground running in Texas A&M because he was a veteran starter. And I think Marcus Freeman is very good at creating pressure in practice situations. That is paramount this year because it's at the most important position.
Yeah, and I think kind of to adding to what you just said, having that quarterback competition down to 2 players, now you can really focus on creating that pressure between them, knowing you can't, in a game where you can't have a bad series, now they have a practice. They can't have a bad practice because the other guy might start pulling away. So when you have 2 inexperienced guys, now they can create that kind of game-like pressure to start fall camp and really see who elevates through that.
You want to be looking over your shoulder. You want those guys looking over their shoulders.
Yeah, it's a one-on-one battle now, and instead of those 12 reps, you split them in half, and you get a really accurate indicator of who's stepping forward. A little house cleaning with the injury situation. Brennan Vernon, who missed the blue gold game, as it turned out he tore an MCL. So that injury will carry over until, or I guess he'll probably be cleared about July.
He said July, yeah.
And that's telling because Brennan Vernon's a name that we've talked about as a potential entry into the portal. By him mentioning that, it sounds like he will not be one of those that does it. Although the 105 and the possibilities of 105 will come into play here shortly. Other guys, this was great news. Boubacar Traore, Ashton Craig, Jordan Botelho, Kohanu Kia are all cleared for full participation this summer. That's huge. Those are the first 3 guys are huge. members of the starting core or immediate backup core. We're not going to see Cooper Flanagan, which we anticipated. That's going to be long-term. Lambert, Davion Dixon will be back in play this summer.
Yeah, and they're going to kind of enter the full conditioning at some point this summer. That's good news for Lambert, too, because I think now with Gerby Lambert's injury, you were looking for Gerby Lambert to be one of the guys that can help at tackle over a 15 or 16-game season. He doesn't have to help at tackle on September 1st or August 31st, whatever that is. That's unrealistic now. I thought the question on the offensive line was intriguing because they are a veteran group because they played in the playoffs. Anthony Knapp started 15 games. Charles Jogasso has played 3 games that matter in his career. Yeah. It just seems like he is the given for me in this group, and he's played 3 games in his career. It's the strangest grizzled veteran group you've ever seen because none of them are going to even be out of eligibility.
They may all be back in 2026 as well. Drew, as far as the cutting down, there was a lot of talk about 105, whether it's instituted or whether it's not. He said never say never as it relates to transfers. It sounded pretty definitive that they wouldn't be going after somebody, but I think you still have to kind of, especially with Mike Martin on board, you need to take a peek and see what's out there. Is there a tight end that can help them? I don't know that you necessarily want to muddy the waters at defensive tackle because he said they've got 5 or 6 guys that they're very confident about that can rotate a tackle. It's not about replacing the 2 guys, Cross and Mills. It's about replacing the productivity of Cross and Mills.
Yeah, I definitely think it will be interesting to monitor. You got to look, like you said, in the portal. Like, if there's a guy out there who really fits what you're doing and you feel like you could bring in, like, you always want to add competition, especially as you mentioned, tight end will be interesting. He mentioned, like, the portal closes on Friday. But then Notre Dame will have 48 hours, I believe, to enter them actually into the name. But they're being kind of transparent. We don't know what the status of when the 105 roster limits will get approved. So we're kind of being honest, with some guys, we don't know what will happen. But if you feel like your spot's in jeopardy when that news comes in, we understand if you want to enter by Friday. So some guys might be making decisions by Friday, which then we would hear over the weekend.
That's a man. They're put in a tough spot. The kids are put in a really, really difficult spot with the portal closing on Friday and the uncertainty of 105. I think 105 is going to happen. And he did mention if it's 105, 95 guys will be on full scholarship.
About 95 scholarships, and they have a plan for the other 10 guys, or some of the other 10 guys. If they need money to stay in school at Notre Dame, they have a plan. Now, he didn't say what that plan was. I can spell it out for you in 3 letters, and we all know what those letters are these days. So that is a way to work around the 95 scholarships. If you need more, NIL is there. And now Notre Dame has an advantage in that situation over, say, some MAC schools and some Sun Belt schools that don't have that ability to keep. Notre Dame is a good walk-on program. They're at 113 right now. I want to throw that out. Got to get down to 105. It is a tough situation because they have to operate like it's going to happen. But in the next 2 or 3 days, some kids have to make that decision.
It's fluid, man. It's fluid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough place for them all to be, as we just said. You want to be able to be more transparent, but just with how the decision-making process is going down, through a federal judge kind of approving everything, it's not really on what's best for the players right now, which is unfortunate.
Tim, what else do you have?
Well, I think that I wanted to ask a little bit about the wide receivers. Yeah. I do have a question for everybody. Who is the 5th wide receiver right now? Because the 4 guys, if you're just going to go Greathouse, Fields, Pauling, and Faison, we all know that those 4 guys are going to be heavily in the rotation. Micah Gilbert lost a lot of spring by breaking those 2 fingers. He needed consistency. Drops became a problem for him because we saw it in the game. And if you recall, we actually saw an August camp, and we're just like, that's okay. It's August camp. It wasn't okay because apparently they had dropping issues. Did KK Smith step forward? I don't know if he stepped forward enough. I know Elijah Burris did. Can Elijah Burris capitalize on that? Because I believe the 5th spot is still available in a 6-player rotation, although someone on our board made a good point. Micah Gilbert might be the only backup boundary guy, W. Right. That gives him a leg up, but I still think Mike Denbrock would get creative and move some guys around.
Yeah, the press conference ended with a bit of conversation about Chris Ash and what he's done to enhance the defensive side of the football. I think, we're going to have to see exactly – we won't know until we get in a game situation exactly how much he plans to change what Al Golden did. Yeah. He's talked up a good game, and I generally think that he will stick to that plan. It sounded like, let me know if you disagree with this, But Marcus Freeman talked about whether he'd be on the field or up in the box, and I think he kind of hinted that there might be something different than what Al Golden did, which would mean that Chris Ash would call the game from up in the press box.
Seems
Did you get that impression?
It seems natural to me
Yeah.
that Chris Ash would do that anyway. I
Yes.
think it's tough on the field.
Yeah, definitely, and I think I agree. We'll kind of see how things kind of shake out. I mean, it would be crazy for him to come in and say we're going to change things up after what Al Golden did. So some of that process might happen, kind of gradually throughout the fall, and we'll see how much they actually play zone and things like that. But I think it's fair to be a little dubious because we just have no idea what that means because there's nothing they would say other than he's changing as little as possible.
We do know there's good personnel out there in one way or another. This should be another quality Notre Dame football team. For Tim O'Malley and Drew Mentock, I'm Tim Priester, and this has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis.